Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good morning. So happy to be back here after 1 year. For those of you that don't know me, hi, my name is Livia, and I'm the Director of Insights at TrendWatching. We're one of the world's latest consumer trends firm, and today we brought for you today 3 trends. Oops. I think I'm having... Okay, there we go. So today I brought for you 3 of our most exciting consumer trends. And you'll see that after each trend, we'll have a question. These questions are what we call a light bulb moment. And they are designed to help you bridge what you see here on stage, not only on my session, but throughout the day, to your challenge, brands, and to your organization. I also recommend taking a photo of these questions, writing them down, and using them as icebreakers during the break that will be right after this session. So on that note, are you excited for some trends? Come on, I can hear a bit more. Are you excited? Okay, that's better. Let's begin with our trend number 1. Is anyone familiar with the concept of neuroaesthetics? I can see some people nodding. For those of you who are not, neuroaesthetics is the scientific study of the impact of art in our bodies and minds. It's a subfield of applied aesthetics with cognitive neuroscience. And practitioners believe that by engaging with art shouldn't be a nice to have, but a necessity. In fact, the University College of London did a 12-year study on the impact of art in the health of its community and found out that those that engage has a 32% lower risk of developing depression in the following 10 years. So I do hope that everyone's on date with their museum visit here. But jokes on the side, we're talking about a holistic approach to health. For long, health is not only what we eat, but also how we spend our time. And we know that so much that all over Europe, social prescribing is rising. Here in Brussels, for example, we see the initiative of museum prescription have been extended since last year. And of course, this comes at a time of driving new technology. And I'm sure that you've seen already a lot about it. But we start to see, for example, mind-reading technology, so to say, breaking from the lab and joining into everyday lives. With, for example, Neurable, that is this headset from a Boston-based startup that has EEG, electroencephalogram. So what it does is that it reads your brain waves and translates that information to an app to help tell you if you are fatigued or burnout. So what's the big driver here? Of course, we've been talking about personalization for the past decade, but this really reinforces that people really love what's tailored to them. And that leads us to our first trend, sensecaping, and the rise of multisensory experiences that provide new routes to enlightenment. So we understood this trend in 3 different layers. The first one is inner journeys. And we have an amazing example from the UK, the Arts Fund, that is an art-based charity that partnered with the Watts Gallery for those visiting the exhibition wearing an EEG headset. So they tour the exhibition, and after they received a 3D map of the impact of the exhibition in their bodies, which emotions arose, how did the brain react to it. So they help visualize something as intrinsic as creativity and art impact on the body. But if we take that to an even deeper level, we can think of emotional translation, and we have an amazing example of what Turkish Airlines did in partnership with contemporary artist Refik Anadol. They partnered to help visualize the impacts of traveling in the brain. So they selected 4 people that had never traveled before and took them in a journey, again, with an EEG headset, tracking their heartbeat and all of that. And with that data, they translated it into an immersive experience, which is what you see on screen. This is a visualization of your brain when you're in touch with a different culture. And of course, if we add personalization to that, we get to the 3rd level, enlightenment. And the interesting case here comes from Nike in their House of Innovation in Paris, where they created Breathe Lab, which is this gigantic sphere embedded with AI and a thermal camera, where you walk into it, you can see your aura, which is basically a color reflecting your breathing patterns. So the heavier you breathe, the fuzzier aura is. The calmer you breathe, the cooler it gets. And I know what you might be thinking. This might be too technological, it doesn't reflect my strategy or my brands. To show that anyone can tap into this trend, we have this example from Lush, that they partnered with the Poetry Pharmacy, which is a poetry-focused bookshop in the UK, to bring poetry books to their retail spaces. So instead of just getting their bath bomb for their self-care movement, they could also get a poetry book to help reinforce that. They also created a bath bomb with poetry inside, so after you throw it, you got to see like a poetry. I just hope that it was plastified so that you could actually read the poetry, but I'm sure it was. That gets us to our first light bulb moment. Can you deliver hyper-personalized experiences that offer new routes to enlightenment? Okay, now ready for trend number 2? Okay. Does anyone recognize or have seen this game before? Okay, this is called Hamster Combat, and it's a tap-to-earn game, which basically means that you need to tap. The more you tap, the more crypto you make. Entertaining, it's actually like a free game, monetized through ads. You know the business model. The driver here is that it was downloaded last year 350 million times. And beyond the expectation of entertainment, it also reinforced that people are looking for other sides of income. And we've seen that, for example, with the rise of the resale market. So Vinted is becoming gigantic in Europe and helping us rethink the value of our purchases, the resale price, even before we buy them. We see, for example, luxury brand Vestiaire Collective that ran last year a campaign on the cost per wear metrics. This is associated with this growing movement of changing perception of value. In August last year as well, Airbnb did this campaign with a tire renting company by rotation in the US, where if you join an Airbnb in a destination wedding, they would offer you free wedding clothes, like invitee clothes, not bride or groom. But for you to attend that wedding, you could have free clothes under this service. And this is what this trend is about. We're starting to see the rise of new forms of value creation. And the brands that win this movement are the ones that unlock value in new ways. Again, just as the last trend, we also understand this one in 3 different levels. The first innovation actually comes from Belgium, lovely to have a local example, which is the true cost calculator. Here, in this online app that anyone can check, you can see the value of a garment beyond its value, its price, because they also acknowledge, for example, the labor conditions, carbon footprint, water usage, and so on. The second level is compensation. How can we compensate people for engaging with us? And we have, for example, the case of Travely, which is a travel platform, an American travel platform, that what it does is, for everyone that uploads a short video, so could be kind of like a TikTok or a reel, recommending a hotel and add the Travelly referral link, they can get 5% back, 5% commission on any booking made through that link, through that video. So the interesting thing here is that not only influencers, social media influencers, can monetize their influence, but also everyone can do it. Another interesting part of paid engagement. Last year, we saw IKEA opening a store on Roblox. And for those of you that don't know, Roblox is this online game universe. So it's like a universe, online games where people build their universe within the game and other people can join, basically. So IKEA decided to open their space and hire, as if is it a store, you need to hire people to work on it. So they opened 10 jobs for anyone over 18 in the UK could apply for them. Jobs like staff manager, store manager, cashier, etc. The interesting thing is that they would pay £13 per hour for those working on their visual store, which is the same that they pay to people in London IKEA. They had over 178,000 people applying for those 10 jobs. And why does it matter? Because it was hosted on Roblox. This is a space where in Q3 last year, it has 89 million daily active users who collectively spent over 20 billion hours on the platform. And as we're talking about spending time in places, let's get to our third level, community. Here we saw a British store, Selfridges, taking their reward system to another level. So what they did, they used to reward people for spending money on stores. So the more you spend, the more keys, which is their point systems, you collect. Now they started also rewarding people for spending time in stores. So if, for example, you join an event, or you dine in the restaurant, or you go to their hair salon, or to the cinema inside Selfridges, you also collect that keys to help not only build community, but people to raise and get more value of their interaction the more they interact with the brand. And this is what Worthwise is about. These traditional models of value are being reimagined. So how will your brand play in this new value economy? Ready for our last trend? Amazing. So I understand that there's a lot going on this slide, but basically we have here a roundup of all the pop culture moments that we saw last year. For example, the rise of, let's call offline digital technology, because I won't call it vintage, that is digital cameras, iPods, Razr phones. We also saw the success of British artist album Charlie XCX, Brett, that celebrated messiness and kickstarted the whole movement of Brett Summer. So why does it matter? Because the new generations are struggling with burnout and this pressure to be perfect. And of course, in a moment where we have AI-generated images reinforcing this algorithm perspective of what beauty looks like, it gets attention. Luckily, we're starting to see a pushback against these unrealistic expectations, with one of the examples being the recent prohibition on Instagram of the so-called beauty filters. Or, for example, with the rise of rejection therapy. Have you seen this? I thought that this is actually a really interesting cultural element, that rejection therapy is an exercise where you actively seek out rejection. So you put yourself in situations to be rejected, you record that, and you share that on social media to kind of teach you how to cope with the feeling of rejection and failure. I totally recommend checking out the hashtag on social media. It's quite interesting. This is giving the rise to what we call the post-perfection economy, where consumers embrace messiness of being human in all its form. And this is what Humanifesto is about, embracing imperfection and celebrating complexity. So we decided to bring a really strong case to kick off this trend. So it comes from fashion brand Mista, European fashion brand Mista, that ahead of opening their New York store, they decided to create a range room in this place where the store would be. So they collected things that would be discarded and invite people to go there and destroy everything with a baseball bat. So they created this space where people could share their emotions, but of course they realized that they actually needed to open the store, so they evolved the concept from a rage room to a rage wall. So if anyone goes to New York and you visit Mista's store, you see a wall with post-its for you to post what you feel about personally, professional, and more. But this trend is also about acknowledging the messiness of real life. That's why Powerade decided to add a contractual amendment to all of its athletes' sponsorships to ensure that if at any point they decide to take a mental or physical break to take care of their mental or physical health, they wouldn't lose the sponsorship. This is actually a global campaign, and they're doing this to athletes sponsored in Chile, the Netherlands, South Korea, and more. It's really a break against this idea of winning at all costs that has long prevailed sports. And of course, if we're talking about messiness, we need to talk about the major mess of them all, dating life. So I won't ask anyone here who's on a dating app or not. What I can assure for a personal experience is that it's a really awful experience in the sense of how engaging it is, in the sense of how you connect to people. So what this app decided to do, Healy, was to create a comparison, like a score match. So before creating your profile, you answer a few questions about your values and about the things you don't like, and it provides a comparison between your match. So you not only select the person you're matching with because of their looks, but you have that more meaningful, authentic element to it. And as we're talking about dating life, it's interesting to see that people are looking for more serendipitous ways of meeting people, and especially getting back to meeting their significant others in the offline world. So how can we celebrate, talking about the offline world, how can we celebrate the uniqueness of daily lives? This app, Walkcast, does it in a really interesting way. So this is an infinite podcast that reacts to your surrounding. So it's based on 3 AIs. The researcher that researches in real time the information about the place that you're in. The editor that turns all that data into a narrative, and then the host that tells the story. So if you download it and walk from one neighborhood to another, it will keep evolving, providing this experience. And I know what you might be thinking now. Wow. So at TrendWatching, we say that expectations like the ones created by this innovation and trends on their own, they're just interesting context if you don't do anything with it. So I really hope, and I'm really looking forward to see the campaigns, the innovations, and everything that you will be creating based on these trends. Thank you very much.